Hi, today we've come to what is arguably the poshest place in Yorkshire. The sun's shining, beautiful blossom everywhere. So come with me, let's have a look around Harrogate.
Harrogate is actually in North Yorkshire, just north of Leeds, just south of Ripon. One of the interesting facts about Harrogate is it's actually built on an extinct volcano. So what we're going to do today is have a nice gentle walk around and see some of the sights of Harrogate. And one of the sights must be some of the shops. And let's face it, that is some price for a chair. One thing Harrogate does have is a good variety of shops, all sorts. I mean, some of them are very boutique, some of them are, shall I say, on the high side of price, but some of them are what you'd class as a normal everyday shop as well. But where we are now tends to be on the, shall I say, higher quality of things. Just across there is an Everyman Cinema, where you can sit down, have a meal, a bit more than what cinema used to be. What you will notice is a lot of the buildings are old, but of high quality. The sort of Victorian, early Victorian, mid-Victorian buildings that just give it a little bit extra touch. More of a feel of a luxurious place. And just over there, that building that has a bridge going from it, that's the shopping centre, where you've got your HMV, you've got Toy Master, the sort of shops that most high streets have, including a pound store, which there was big uproar when it came to Harrogate. Should it have it, shouldn't it? But it was packed from day one. Harrogate does have a train station, not a big one, but it's there. One of the things with that shopping centre, that bridge, first of all, it goes over there, then over the railway lines to a multi-storey car park. But once we've got past the bridge, you'll see that all the way round the shopping centre, they've tried to make it fit in with the Victorian past of Harrogate, with some stone sculptures, the brickwork, looking as though it fits in, and I think it does fit in quite well. And the main shopping areas down there, we'll walk through there on our way back, but up here is the bus station. To give you an idea of the sort of buses that we have running here, they go from Leeds right through to Ripon, Harrogate being the mid-stop between the two. And under the situation as it is at the moment, it's £2 for a trip, so you could look from Leeds to Ripon for £2. Which is probably about 30-40 miles, maybe 30. But the bus station is quite a busy one. Now, whether or not it'll be like that in a couple of years' time, I don't know, because there's plans to totally redevelop this area. They were put on hold when the council was changed, but at the moment, they're still there somewhere waiting to be done. crossing down over here, we're going to have a look around some of the more historical items in Harrogate in a minute. But there's a little shop over there, and it is called Arites. Now, anybody from the UK will know of a TV series called Open All Hours, which was called Arites, and it basically was a corner shop. Well, this is more of the traditional sort of shop for hardware and stuff like that, but they've just got it set up exterior-wise, looking very, very good. And if you're from outside the UK, there's quite a few double-decker buses run around Harrogate. And that's not the first performance car we've seen running around. If you watch carefully, there's been a couple. Now that plain building there is the back door, if you like, to the Harrogate Theatre, not the Harrogate Royal Theatre, which we'll come up to later. And those of you who like Only Fools and Horses will recognise the Reliant Robin van there, or at least something that's done up to look a little bit like it. Let's go in and have a closer look, shall we? For those who don't know, Only Fools and Horses is a sitcom that's been going for well over 20 years. It now occasionally produces a Christmas special. But in essence, they are independent traders, buy and sell anything, and not always that very successfully. Hilarious programme. Harrogate was actually at one stage voted the world's most romantic destination. Yes, Paris, Rome, Vienna, all beaten by Harrogate back in 2013. Don't quite understand why, but obviously somebody thought it was. Harrogate was also voted the happiest place to live 3 times in a row. Now that was by an estate agent's, but nevertheless, 24,000 people voted to say that the happiest place was Harrogate. Harrogate often gets celebrity visitors even today, but back in Victorian times there was one really notable person, Charles Dickens. It seems he was happy or impressed by the people who lived there. He made the comment that the city was the queerest place with the strangest people in it, leading the oddest lives. Makes you wonder what he observed and experienced during his visit to Harrogate, doesn't it?
And this is Harrogate Exhibition Centre, and probably you may have even seen this on TV because it held the Eurovision Song Contest not so long back. This, the Royal Theatre, is one of the older theatres in Harrogate, and when you go inside, it is absolutely fantastic architecture. It was very, very recently, totally revamped inside. In fact, my daughter was on the stage on the very first performance that happened after it'd been revamped and redone inside. In Victorian times, Harrogate was known for that, the Royal Baths, where you'd come, take benefit of the baths in the area, soak away all your illnesses, and became super well. Well, that was the theory behind it, but that building there was where you'd come. And around here are lots and lots of hotels that still exist to this day that were built up purely on that. And that is one of the reasons why this became known as a posh place, because it had the Royal Baths. Now over here, and yes, I have noticed the cars knocking about. We've had a few Aston Martins, a few Ferraris, Lamborghini there, etc. As I say, a posh area. This used to be the council offices. I know, it looks like some sort of stately home, doesn't it? Certainly impressive. And then when Harrogate Borough Council became North Yorkshire Council, then this was sold on. I have absolutely no idea what it's going to be, but I'd imagine, knowing what happens often nowadays, you'll find that these will be turned into flats. And, well, let's face it, it's a beautiful building to be turned into flats, so hopefully they'll do more than that with it. And like most places, there's often some very unique architecture. It's supposed to be a sculpture of Cupid and Psyche, and it was made in 1861. But what I do like is what they've done. Protected it from the elements. And now we're getting into some of the very older parts of Harrogate. You can see by the architecture of these type of buildings where the Victorians had put just that little bit more effort in than perhaps we do nowadays. We have sculpture, etc. And next to it, Hale's Bar, one of the oldest pubs that's continually been used in the country. And then you have the Royal Pump Museum, Royal Pump Room Museum, which you can actually go in and see some of the history behind this. It's closed at the moment. So you can even see the tap that you could have drunken from. However, you can press the water, it's supposed to come out, and it does sometimes, it stinks to high heaven, but it's sulphur water. Oh look, the water's coming out now, and it smells, really smells. I wouldn't touch it.
Just entering Valley Gardens. Now, once you've taken your water in good old Victorian times, you probably went for a walk. And this, you can tell straight away, is a proper Victorian park to walk about in. There's buildings everywhere that you go, so you can get a shelter from rain. There's things to see, little water features, little places to get something to eat. This particular one sells ice creams, etc. It just gives you the feeling that you could just jump back in time be back in the Victorian times and everything would be exactly the same. I'm sure it probably wouldn't, but it just gives you that feeling. Now, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll know that I always keep checking the prices of things. So, not maybe the cheapest place for an ice cream, but not excessive. And here we go, the waterfalls. Sorry to say water features. I'll get my words right eventually. And that's a proper boating lake. You can see there's somebody there. Just let's see if we can see him a bit better. There, that little boy with a boat. And again, you can imagine Victorian times, people walking about with the kids, putting boats into the water. Harrogate actually got its name back in the 1330s. It was called Harrogate, and then Harrogate, then Harrogate. However, the origin of the name remains a mystery. Some believe the name actually comes from some Old Norse words, the word for a heap of stones and the word for street. It would literally mean, if we translated it, the way to Harlow. And there's a place called Harlow Car just nearby. Harrogate has another distinction. It has the oldest working Turkish baths in the country. The baths were quite common in Victorian times. However, today, only 7 remain. And this one goes back to early Victorian days. We're now walking back up probably one of the main streets in Harrogate. But it's a main street that has quite a few restaurants on it, as you'll see as we walk along. It did have Jamie Oliver's restaurant here, but that didn't last much longer than a few months. And we've also had 1 or 2 other major restaurants down this street, but they all seem to last for a year or so and disappear. However, there are some that you'll recognise, like Nandos. Nandos in the UK is predominantly chicken, but it originated in South Africa. But there's more Nandos in the UK than anywhere else. Interesting. And yeah, you'll see that there's quite a bit of work being done in the area at the moment, scaffolding everywhere. So you've got your Five Guys there. Never actually been into one of those. Maybe one day. Wagamama. Another big chain. And now we're coming up to 1 or 2 more expensive options. The Ivy. Now, the Ivy is probably one of the top restaurants that you can go to in London, and Harrogate is no different. You'd probably need to book a seat in London. You might get away with just turning up in Harrogate. There is one place you must go if you can, and that's Betty's Tea Rooms. They have the most fantastic selection, and if you've never had an English tea, this is the place to go. An afternoon tea is basically a cup of tea or coffee, you can have coffee, and some scones, cakes, whatever suits. But Betty's isn't cheap, £30 for the proper deal. It was actually made by somebody from Switzerland. came over here, changed his name, married the landlady's daughter, and 1919 started Betty's, which is now world famous. Well worth the trip. Now we're going to walk through the main shopping area here. You'll see one or two brands that you may or may not know, like Caffè Nero. Imagine it is basically, if you don't know, if you're not from the UK, it's like a Starbucks. Different, but the same, if you know what I'm saying. A proper coffee shop of that nature. You'll also notice as we're walking up, going past the banks that are there, you've got a church right in the centre of the town. Not the sort of place that you'd normally expect it, but when you think about it, towns expand. Why should the church move? You can actually go in there and have a cup of coffee or a tea. They have a little cafe in there and a little gift shop, which I don't know many churches that have gift shops. Cathedrals, yes, but not churches. Now you'll notice to the right, we'll come to it in a minute, a little place called Sainsbury's, and that's one of their small shops. It's not the big supermarkets. It's sort of go in, get a bite to eat, get a drink on your lunch break, the odd thing that you've forgotten. Then we have Primark, which is your cut price clothing shops. If you're from the UK, you'll know all these. They're all major brands. Pandora for jewellery. O2 is phones. Clinton's to the right, that was cards. Lush, that's your bath bombs. And Boots. Now Boots is the biggest pharmacy chain and beauty chain in the UK by a long time. Holland & Barrett, those are sort of your vitamins and that sort of health foods. But the big one that I wanted to show you here is Marks and Spencer's. Now, Marks and Spencer's was a worldwide brand. And about 15-20 years ago, I might be wrong on that, might be a little bit longer, might be a little bit shorter, they shut majority of the branches worldwide just to focus on the UK. And Marks and Spencer's is clothing and food and probably mid-range cost-wise. I'm also going to walk past something that's been around for quite a few years as well. W.H. Smith's. Started in 1792. And there's the back door to Marks and Spencer's, to their food hall. And as I said to you before, the Harrogate Theatre. This isn't the Royal Theatre, this is the Harrogate normal theatre, if you like. These have the comedians showing up, the shows that have travelled across the country, whereas the Royal Theatre seem to have more special ones. As we walk down the street, I've skipped a few things, but like everywhere in the world, there's always McDonald's. Now, back in 1926, the author Agatha Christie, famous for Miss Marple, among other stories, went missing to the degree that there was a nationwide hunt for her. And where was she finally found? That's right, Harrogate, at the Old Swan Hotel. Her excuse for going missing was she was suffering from amnesia. This was just after she'd caught her husband having an affair. But she was missing for quite some time and turned up here.
So I hope you've enjoyed our little trip to Harrogate. The big question is, do you think it's a posh place? Well, we've seen Maseratis, Ferraris, Aston Martins, Lamborghinis, Porsches, just about everything you can possibly think of. So there's definitely money here. But is it a posh place? If you think as posh as something negative, then no. It's quite a relaxed, quite a comfortable place that just happens to have a lot of money here. So yes, there are shops that a chair costs more than what people will earn in 3 or 4 months. But you've equally got a pound shop where you can go in and save an awful lot of money. So you've got both sides there. I hope you've enjoyed the little walk around. Don't forget to subscribe and don't forget to watch the next video, and I'll see you on that. Bye for now.